one podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering community for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast, the podcast where we delve into those salty mines of the Magic the Gathering community, find the salty stories, the salty posts that we love, the salty confessionals that we crave, put them in our mine cart, and bring them right back up to you, our dear prospectors at home. As always, I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined by my two lovely co-hosts, Tony and Mike. Say hey, guys.
What up, what up, what up?
Hello.
Hello, indeed. And before we go any further, you know we got to shout them out, our nice tier patrons. And this week we have Alex Balix, Green Bean, Prime Speaker Florian, Dr. Black, Accidental TPK, and ZZ. Thanks for being so nice, guys.
Thanks.
That's an enthusiastic thank you from Tony. Tony,
Well,
calm down, dude.
I was
Calm
thinking too
down.
hard. I was in the brain being like, Sam should read it backwards one of these times, just for fun. So that I was gonna be like, you should read it like bottom of the list up.
Oh man, that would be madness. You kidding me? I read it in a specific way. My brain would fry.
It feels like it's like basically alphabetical order though.
It literally is for the most part.
I'm just looking out for the people at the bottom of the alphabet, you know? I'm looking out for the people at the bottom. Because their whole lives, they've been, put down by the system that is easier and correct. But like, every once in a while, you got to toss them a bone.
Well, it's a special day, guys, because we have a fourth person in the minecart with us, a very special person. Our good friend, Tim Goldsabertooth, artist extraordinaire for cEDH mats, proxies, logos. You see his art all over. You know him, you love him. Tim, what's going on, dude? Thanks for joining us in the mine.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you, dude. Glad to have you. What's new, Tim?
Not much. Fall setting in. It's very autumnal and beautiful upstate New York.
Love it.
The hills are conflagrant.
Dude, it literally is. I was actually in upstate New York this past weekend. We were passing ships in the night. I had a very fussy baby in the back of the car. Otherwise, I would have stopped off and said hello.
Dude, just call him Tony, man. Just we don't have to call him Fussy Baby anymore. Yeah, his name.
Yeah, he is a beautiful baby boy, though.
Fucking bullshit.
So Tim, you're obviously a cEDH player. You are in the tournament scene, but I think for the most part, people know you from your art, all of the awesome playmats and tokens that you've done and different things like that you've designed. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about your art before we jump into the episode.
I think if you love something or you're interested or you care about it, you'll find a way to let your talents shine through it. So I think that the three of you, you're good friends. You guys have been good friends to me.
But yeah.
Well, it's true. You guys are good
to
friends.
you, yeah,
and
just
yeah,
not
to
with each
me.
other.
But
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
You guys have good chemistry. You have good banter. You're fun to chat with. And when we're together at like conventions and stuff, we always have like a really good, or tournaments, we have a good time. So like that kind of like gift or your talent for like conversation and humor is like,
say more.
That's kind of shining through in your ability to put on a podcast. So like, I think like one of my talents is like my artwork.
Hell
Definitely.
yeah.
And like also my humor too, 'cause I think my artwork's pretty funny, but because like I love cEDH and I love the friends I made for it, like I feel inspired to make art for the community. So that's kind of what it is. I've become really successful. And I don't mean that in like a commercial sense. I mean, like I personally feel fulfilled making cool drawings that people think are cool and fun. And I've said it before that like EDH and especially cEDH, I don't really play much EDH, but I play cEDH. And for me, it's a form of like, it's competitive and it's intellectual, but it's also a community-based activity, but it's also like an expression of creativity. And I think that like, that's one thing I kind of help lend my talents and my gifts towards is like, I give people an opportunity to showcase their creativity and like kind of like give voice to like personal expression in this space by like making cool playmats and tokens and customizing in a way that's not like just like purely commercial. It's not like, oh, I just need like the coolest, blingiest version of like of every card that comes out. I need like the most chaste treatment, because that's like a sort of like hedonic consumer treadmill that'll never end. But if you can
Tony,
find a way to like make it an act of personal expression and like make it like your thing. Like I remember back in the day, people would like take acetone and like whiteboard their whole deck. You know, I thought that was like crazy, but cool. And then I met a guy named Austin who was one of the first people I ever met whose entire cEDH deck was all artist proofs. Did you guys see the Ristic Studies episode?
Dude, I've seen the video.
I actually met him in LA, and I got to see those decks. It was so cool.
Insane, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Fucking awesome.
Did you get him disqualified? Because those aren't legal cards.
And I called, don't worry, I called Wizards. I was like, excuse me. No, he's gone. We booted his ass. He's
fucking hell yeah. You took me out that day.
Yeah. I was like, these are marked. These are
Did you get the proofs? Did you get the proofs though?
Oh,
when we kicked him out?
Of course.
And I'll be taking these.
First.
I'll be confiscating these.
It would be a real drag if Gavin Very heard about this.
Yeah, dude. I love that though, man. I think it's really cool how much you tie the creativity into all of it. Like art has innately been a part of Magic from like the very beginning. You know, its inception. Like it being on every card is like super, I think, integral into like what people fall in love with in the game. So you definitely attract people that, like you're saying, like this game piece, like this competitive piece, but also like can enjoy something that has a cool picture on it. You know, and then people are you're self-selecting for a group of people that are going to make some of those decisions sometimes to like aesthetically bling out their decks or 100%. Their tokens or their playmat. You know, like some of those even accessories too. I know, like I got a Sisse playmat from you because I was like, I know I'm going to be playing Sisse forever. So I might as well make sure that I get like a really cool piece of art that someone did that gets it too. You know, you had like put in some specific combo pieces and kind of like taken like this built concept of a deck and then turned it into a piece of art that can represent it on the board in front of you while you're playing, which is, it's just this cool mishmash of the game and the visuals of it.
Well, for sure. And like, I feel like in your description just now of yourself, there's two things that stood out to me that are like immediate memories that I have of either first meeting you or like initial times. And it's like the whole art piece obviously is a huge thing. And I remember when we met at
Summit.
Yeah, at Summit. And you drew a fucking rhino. This dude came up. He was like, yo, can I get 2 rhino tokens? And you're like, hell yeah, man. And you busted out 2 tokens in under 3 minutes. One was a photorealistic fucking rhino. And then the other was like in your style. And it was like, it was so insane. And again, it was in under 3 minutes. Like you're just like, oh yeah, I got that. Like, let me do this right now. And my mind was blown. It was truly blown in that moment. I was like, holy shit, this guy's so talented. And then the other piece is like the Magic side, the cEDH side, like knowing you as a cEDH player. Because I remember we sat down to play a casual game. This is before I was cEDH build. And Tim's like, yeah, I got a casual version of Tyam.
I can swap out 10 cards and it's going to be casual.
It's a cEDH deck and he just takes 10 fucking cards out.
Earlier saying like, I don't really play EDH. I mostly play cEDH.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we know.
That was so funny. Yeah, we talked about that in our Summit episode if people are curious.
Oh, man.
But yeah, man, your art style, like if people don't know it, it's super cool. It's like got this heart of screen printing style with like pop culture parody
100%.
And like memeing on ideas and concepts that are nostalgic and things like that. And it also has all these consistent motifs that you put in where if you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, Tim did that. Like that's a Goldsabertooth. You might see it in like tokens from like playmats and on logos. You know, there's a ton of channels out there that have Tim's art for logos or have like custom tokens that Tim designed or playmats.
People with custom Goldsabertooth tokens. who would maybe have any of those?
And I will say, you know, adding to the compassion that you mentioned and just putting your energy into art, you were incredibly kind. All 3 of you actually were very kind. Tim especially though, to conspire and surprise me with some custom offspring tokens that you made after my daughter was born. And I got to see those recently. And man, it's just so fucking cool. People will see them once they, hit the mailboxes. But it was a gift that it was like a guest token that Tim did so that I could take a month off from token drawing and like still send out tokens for our patrons for that token tier. And the token design is just beautiful. It's like a salt shaker Sam with a little mini salt shaker. I've got like my hat and my mullet and my plugs, and I'm riding in a mine cart. It's just
so
like
good.
it's so good.
It's the gift that keeps on giving because the mullet is back, folks. The
Yeah,
mullet is
I am
back.
regrowing the mullet.
I meant in the token, but like yes.
No, in real life, Tony, in real life. And Tony said he was going to grow a skullet.
Yeah,
Oh,
obviously.
thank God.
That's what I want to do.
Thank God.
Yeah, we've been waiting.
I think we could just talk for a whole episode about how amazing your art is, Tim, and how fucking cool it is, man. And, I think we can all agree, the rest in peace, Dockside Extortionist. Personally, I'm glad the card is gone from the meta, but I am sad that those tokens just are a little bit different, man. Those Docky-Walkie tokens, I'll still use them, but I look at them and I'm just like, man, the Dockside dollars don't spend how they used to.
That's an illegal currency.
Yeah, it's a legal currency.
I feel like that's not true because useless knowledge made the great point that actually now it's just more like real money because there's a dead guy on it, right? It's like, it's so good. He said that joke when I was playing with him the other day, and I was like, "This is prime." It's so true.
It's so funny. That's a good joke, man.
I saw a token someone had used where they'd sharpied it all over an outer sleeve to cover all of the text on Dockside Up except the
Treasure.
word treasure.
Yeah.
Oh man, I
They were
literally have
using it
one
as
of
their
those.
treasure token. Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
Nice.
I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in this messy office of mine. But yeah, I literally did the exact same thing when I saw that. I was like, fuck it. I've got extra Dockside proxies. I'll just Sharpie right on it.
Well, I think that's one thing that I think everyone touched on is like the knowingness or just a certain kind of intimate knowledge of the format that kind of like adds another dimension to the art. It's not just like interesting or good to look at, but it's also rewarding to be replete with like Easter eggs and referential things. And I think that comes from like knowing it and playing the format and like engaging in the format. So, certain people are like, oh yeah, you should make stuff for like pre-modern, or you should make stuff for this other card game. And I love like aesthetic challenges. I don't feel like I could do it the justice it deserves because I just don't. There's certain kind of like fluency and a certain kind of like vernacular of the format that I feel like I'm able to I'm fluent in.
Totally.
Like sometimes I know when I draw something, it's going to be a hit because I make something that I know I want to exist. And I think like a lot of good art comes from that place where like you make the art that you want in the world and you make it for yourself first. And what is it? To make art after your own heart is to like speak to an eternal audience. Like people are going to love it because it's kind of birthed out of that sort of necessity. So I can tell like why it resonates with people because it resonates with me. It's like, and I've said this before. I don't even know who I said to, but I think that's like maybe why like I love like making art for like cEDH is because the cards that are important for like a niche format are not like the cards that are like important from like a Wizards IP standpoint or something.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that's the cool part about cEDH for me. It's like, do you think like Wizards thought like Polywog Prodigy would be the most important card from Bloomberg? Oh, like, no way. No way. Like it's always like some weird ass card or like from like Aftermath or something. You're like, oh yes, the Porting Broodlord. Like that card is going to be the one. So like, they're going to like make stuff with like Jace on it, because that's like what they do. And I think that's like the big thing that started this was just like wanting a playmat that represented like another mode of personal expression that was like, oh, like I like Malcolm. I want a Malcolm playmat. But like Wizards might not make Malcolm. He's not that important to like their storylines, or something.
Yeah.
So like that was kind of an avenue, like a niche I was able to like kind of carve out naturally.
Yeah, man. I love that like self-referential element that you put in your art where it's like, it's almost like a Where's Waldo element where you're looking at the playmats and you're like, oh shit, and he's got like a little Derevi over here. Hell yeah, because I use that in my Sisei combo and like all the different things like that. And it's just, I don't know, it's a treat to look at. I love it, man.
And you're an illustrator too, Sam. There's like micro and macro levels of engagement for like a piece of art, like especially with like a token or a playmat. And if you're playing at like a tournament setting or on stream, you kind of see it from above. and you see it from a distance. So there's certain like compositional elements that you want to really like pop from a distance, but then you're sitting there a lot and you're like looking at your playmat, and then you want these like smaller elements that are kind of like rewarding upon inspection, like, you know, like,
oh yeah,
it just kind of like enhances the life of the work. You know, you don't just like get it all at once from one vantage point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, you can dig into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
You're
Tim,
cool.
we want to continue this interview because we got a couple quick questions to ask you.
Yeah, just a few.
Let her rip.
Yeah, just a few. And, you know, interview, some might call it an exam, a grueling exam.
An interrogation.
An interrogation of sorts.
Interrogation of sorts, definitely.
That's the word.
Very apt,
Yeah.
very appropriate.
Yeah.
So, you know, like we always like to say, if you answer these questions wrong, we will cut your mic and you can't leave the Zoom. You'll have to just watch us record a full episode.
I love that.
It hasn't happened many times,
But it has happened once. It happened once.
Yeah.
it did happen once canonically. Sorry, Josh Lee Kwai. Sorry, your episode got deleted. Sorry, man. Hey, you know, that's just
You weren't
how it
supposed to
goes.
say his name, Sam.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Go back in and put a bleep in there so that people are really confused. They're like, shit, who the fuck was it?
Who could it have been?
Actually, be kind of funny.
So the first question that we like to ask people is, how did you get into magic?
1993 or 94. My sister dating this guy named Sean Thompson. Really cool dude.
Hell yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Sean.
Sean, man.
Thanks,
Cool
fucking Sean, dude.
Iroquois dude, really cool. Played magic. He was into like grunge music. He like gave me a Smashing Pumpkins CD.
Hell yeah, dude.
Oh,
And
fuck yeah, dude.
helped me build a magic deck. You know what? I don't think maybe you all can relate. Well, at least maybe 2 or 3 of you can relate. But I was a bright kid, and I think like you had a love of language, you know. And magic was a great place to like encounter like really difficult words.
You learn all words for a wizard and a spell basically immediately.
Oh yeah, but there were
Which is
just so
pretty
many
cool.
different magic cards that had like lots of different big vocabulary words, and it was a good place to like learn those words and see those words and kind of encounter like difficult pronunciations. And it had a lot of immediate appeal. It was like competitive. There was like a love of language, but mostly the artwork really right off the bat.
Yeah.
I fell in love with the artwork.
Yeah, dude.
It's high fantasy, dark fantasy. You know, I was really into Tolkien as a kid. You know, I used to read. I read like The Hobbit to my brother when I was little.
Oh, yeah.
Now, were you doing art at the time yourself?
Oh yeah, always.
So like that's part of what drew you in because of, it was already something that you were doing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my dad is a silkscreen printer. He's retired and printmaker, and that's why like when Sam mentioned silkscreens, I was like, 100%. And then my grandfather was a silkscreen printer and a graphic designer, and my mom was a painter, and her mother was a painter, and her grandmother was a painter, and her grandfather. So
it's in your blood, baby.
It's in blood, yeah. And so, and I think like a lot of things, like you can have a innate aptitude for, but I think some things you just like you become good at because you do them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a lot of art with my mom and my brothers, you know, my dad. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate who have had like a parent who's like in a small business owner or something. But like I was just at my dad's studio all the time, you know, like his print shop all the time after school, just drawing at the light table. I had a lot of like art books from like Frank Frazetta. I had a lot of like the old Fleer Ultra X-Men cards and comic Marvel, really into X-Men, Spider-Man, Marvel comics. I had like the how to draw, like the Jack Kirby.
Dude.
You know,
I had that
all
book,
those like
man.
different,
the how to draw.
Like, I think it's the How to Draw the Marvel Way. Is that the one? It was just a lot of fun, and you know, drawing cartoon characters. And I had a light table because of my dad. We had lots of light tables for the shooting the silk screens. So when you would do the logos and different things, you had tons of clip art books, but also like tons of like comic stuff. And my brother and I would like take a drawing from like a comic book, put it on like the copy machine, and we'd make like an acetate print of it, and then we would trace it on the light table on the light box, and we would like learn how to draw stuff that way. When we got into magic, we would like we were early, you know, schemers. We would like erase magic cards, you know, with like an eraser, and then we would like draw our own magic cards on top.
I love
Early
that,
on,
dude.
I found some of them recently. Cards we wish existed, or like cards we couldn't afford.
Oh, that's sick.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Making proxies in the early days, dude.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Early days.
So when did you start to get into competitive formats? Because I know like competitive Magic is something that you're passionate about. Was your first competitive format cEDH, or did you have a competitive love before you found that?
I got into competitive 60 cards for sure. Legacy and Modern.
Yeah.
When I was in Arizona, I was just really isolated, not even like pre-pandemic, because my wife's work just like brought her to really remote places. So we lived in like northern Arizona, the Navajo Nation. We lived in Montana and like Glacier National Park. So we were in these really far places. So I had no friends or didn't really have a strong community. And I was moving around a lot in my adult life. I had my wife and my dogs, but I don't know, like I'm a competitive person and I just like wanted a healthy outlet for my competitiveness. I don't know how I got back into Magic, but I think it was just being alone in terms of like just being in remote areas and just, it would give me something to do. I had nothing really to do that was like competitive or intellectual. So I would just, drive to like the nearest city, whether that was like Billings, Montana, or like Flagstaff, Arizona, or Phoenix or Tucson. And I would drive down 3, 4, 5 hours by myself, play Magic. I actually got into Magic playing with a bunch of dudes up in northern Arizona. Shout out to Harrison, one of the best Navajo Magic players there is. Great guy. One of the best Amulet Titan players. But we would just hang out and just like practice playing 60 card Magic. But I loved EDH. And I think just being like a kind of wanting to optimize, I'm sure you can relate, like,
it's the ramp.
Like tweaking
you ramp on up.
and just like ramping it up. Yeah.
That like natural power creep that happens.
The natural power creep. And I think, and I was playing like Marin or something just because I had a Marin. And I was just like kind of catching a lot of hate in high power pods. Like people were just like hating my deck and hated playing against me. And I was just like, no, I think I just got to like beef up the power level, like just embrace the villain role and just like play with other people that want to go all in.
Yeah.
Instead of people being like, you drew too many cards or you killed too many things. Like I just wanted to play with people who just like the rule zero was like, we're all going for it and there's no hard feelings.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. I think it's good to like be competitive or aggressive in something where the stakes are so low. It's healthy. It's like why people are attracted to like sports or chess. Like you need an outlet for like aggression that is like at the end of the day like peaceful. And I think it's like good for people to, it's important. We can't pretend that we're not like violent or competitive. We are built with like the genetics of like countless centuries of violence in us. We got to like have it needs an outlet.
Damn, we're getting heavy in the salt mine.
It's true. Otherwise, I just beat the shit out of Tony right now. Tony's flexing. You guys can't see it right now, but Tony's like looking at me. He's got like some bull neck and he's like flexing. He's like, come on, bring it.
Trying to intimidate.
You hit me, you better kill me.
I was going to say, I feel like so many of our games aren't peaceful when they end. And we're so fucking mad at each other.
This does sort of lead into the next question of Tim. What makes you salty?
What makes me salty about Magic? Okay, this is going to sound totally unhinged and psychotic, but I kind of do feel like I get targeted in Magic.
Really?
I knew this is what it was going to be.
I think I'm like I have an arch. And maybe that's why like I'm such like a people pleaser, is because like the other side of me is like the arch villain. And I want people to like me. I'm the arch villain of my family. And I've been like the arch villain in like every game, board game I play, everyone has to gang up to take me down. They usually can't. I'm kind of like Thanos. I'm like just like stronger than they can all like attack me. My wife will be playing like Settlers of Catan with her coworkers, and like she'll like defect and like be on their side. She's like, "Don't trade him any more wheat. You know what he's gonna do with it." I'm like, "Give me the wheat." I was like, it's like the only resource I don't have. You need bricks. You can't build any roads without my bricks. You should have put your stuff on. Like I realized that like I have to just like I need to shut up more when I play, because I think people are 4 people could play like a Llanowar elf and mine would be the one to get killed first.
Yeah.
Like I really am. And it's not just like paranoia, but like I was at a game once and I was like really far behind, and I was in a tournament in Buffalo, Spoiler, I won it. But I was at this tournament.
They should have
They
focused
should have,
you.
right. And it was really far behind in the game. And I was like pretty out of the game. There was a player who was playing a cEDH version of what is the guy who you draw a card when an aura comes into play? SRAM?
SRAM.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he was playing a cEDH SRAM deck. And someone was playing Marath. And the Marath deck had like
Oh, maybe.
popping off with Ocelot Pride. That card was just like,
Really? Ocelot Pride?
Oh, this was recent.
this was recent. It had Ocelot Pride in the deck. And like, it
interesting.
was like a smothering tide kind of shit. He was like, he had the city's blessing. He was like making tokens of everything. It was like really punishing.
Yeah.
And can't remember the other decks. Not important. But like, I was really far
Get
behind and I
fucked, fourth
kept,
player.
like, there were people just like, they're like, oh yeah, Force of Vigor. I'm just going to blow up like Tim's 2 rocks. I'm like, I have nothing going on. I'm like, I have literally no board. Like, and they're like, yeah. And then after the game, the guy's like, yeah, I just heard you like talking and I could tell like you know a lot about Magic just by like the words you were using. So I was more afraid of you. And I was like, oh, dang. Like, I don't even know how to hide that because I think like the way we speak or like our like diction is like something that's kind of like invisible to us, but maybe other people pick up on it or something about like, gosh, I kind of sound arrogant. I hope I don't come across as arrogant, but like, I think some people pick up that I'm quick and then they're like more wary of me.
Oh, for sure. That's a part of playing the political piece of the game is to pick up on like not just who's the threat based on like the board state, but some players are better. So you're trying to evaluate who's decent at the game as well.
I do that too against players. Like there was a Yuriko player at this tournament in Taunton, Mass. Great shot, by the way, King's Court. But the Yuriko player asked someone cast a Tainted Pact and like, wait, what does that do? And they asked to read it. And I was like, why does the Yuriko player not know what Tainted Pact does? Like, it seems like a Tainted Pact
Presumably
deck.
it's in the deck.
Presumably it's in the deck. So I was like, immediately I was less afraid of that player.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because I was like, he's probably going to make a mistake. He doesn't know what his own cards do. And maybe that's like an arrogant or
that's
generous
just,
presumption, but that's just like something we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that I give off something verbal, you know, I'm like from New York or something like I don't know what it is, but like I come across as like something villainous or something.
Well, you tend to steeple your fingers and like laugh nefariously.
I have an eye patch. I'm bald.
Yeah.
You strike a lot of power
You
poses.
do kind of go like whenever you play a
scar
card.
over one eye.
Yeah.
And
you frequently murmur about your machination.
I find whenever the sharply dressed man comes over and whispers something in your ear, I get a little bit intimidated during a game.
Usually.
Usually.
Do you think I'm like totally like paranoid or crazy?
So what I can say, because I have witnessed this happen, is we were at a weekend, we were all playing games, and I was watching you play Nadu, and your Nadu kept getting fucking removed. And you were like, "Man, don't remove my Nadu. Like, it's fine. I got nothing. And anytime your Nadu didn't get removed, you won on like the turn. The next turn.
It's true.
And so like, I think that depending upon the commander you're playing, right, it can like drastically impact that. But like, if you get a reputation and are known for just like being good and playing competitive decks and things, like it's usually too late once people decide to try and deal with you. So it's almost easier to be like, you know what, I need to deal with that person now. And it becomes like this switched mentality of instead of waiting for like, quote, the most optimal point, you're like, I'm going to do it now so that they like can't even get to the point where I have to worry about them.
Yeah.
And I think that's like some people almost get that like reputation in their mind. And sometimes I definitely admittedly will think that about Mike and like a Sisay deck. Because like once it's too late, it's too late. Like I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And so he'll be like, oh, like you blew my thing. I'm like, yeah, I fucking did.
Like, I think I'm out here like, I'm gonna eat that shit all the time. Honestly, I'm never surprised. I am disappointed, but I'm never surprised. I kind of think it's like one of the cool like conceits of cEDH, and we've mentioned this before, where like the game kind of feels like 4 1v3s. Like everyone sometimes feels a little bit like they're getting slammed by all 3 other players, because like every time you go for a win attempt, 3 other players are going to be there to try and stop you.
You got 3 buddies.
Yeah. But if Mike's in your pod, it's always going to be Mike who stops you. Mike always stops
Tony literally
me.
said this. Tony literally said this the other night after having been silenced 2 turns in a row by the other 2 players at the table.
But it was the
He
next
was like,
game when
Mike
you
always
also stopped
fucking
me.
hits me. It's like,
Yeah.
no.
Tony lives off those generalities in CEDH games. He's like, this is always going to happen. It's like, that hasn't happened in like 5 games. Like, no.
He's got to stop playing like cEDH Selesnya. That's why.
Dude, he's on Slobdixilus now, man.
Oh yeah, Obnixilus is still sweet. I think that deck is super cool. It got so many cool cards like the Needlehead and stuff. But
Yeah.
I think that deck's one of the coolest decks. But I think to think of like our salt as like a purely negative thing is like one dimension of it. I think it's always an opportunity to like grow, and there's something like really helpful. It's like in our vices and in our like suffering or frustration is like some road to like kind of our redemption or something.
Tim, I really like what you were saying about how we learn from our salt, because that is an excellent transition into the main body of the mine here. You did pass. Congrats.
Hey.
Oh, thank God.
Pat yourself on the back. We won't cut your mic.
You did pass.
Wait. Sam, before we get into it, like what is salt?
That's a great question, Tony. And thank you so much for asking. Salt is frustration in the game, as we like to say here in the Howling Salt Mine. It's anything in a game of Magic that's going to get you pissed off, frustrated, aggravated. It can be that sulky, sullen salt where you turn inward and you get a little quiet. Maybe it's a little bit more of a rambunctious salt and you're yelling and you're pointing fingers. There's a lot of different salts on the spectrum of salt, and we're going to talk about a bunch of them today. I actually have some stories that are special for cEDH. We're going to talk about this salt so that we can learn from it and hopefully not be salty in a future game of Magic the Gathering. As we like to say, it's an educational podcast. Shall we get into it, guys?
Let's rip it.
Yeah, dude.
Let's fucking do it.
Let's do it.
It's time.
I'm going to pull a random story here from our...
It can't be that random because you said it's going to be a cEDH question.
Well, so the way that it works is I go into our email, I type in cEDH, and then I look at all of the possible ones.
I like that.
All right, I got a story here. You guys ready for it?
I'm ready.
Rip it. So this one comes to us from our buddy Benjamin, and the story is titled Salt from Upholding Priorities. And the story goes, Dear Salt Squad, a few months ago, I played cEDH every 1 to 2 weeks. However, that ended abruptly on the salty night in question. I arrived at my LGS after work, ready to sling spells, but the cEDH folks had already split into pods. I sat with the group that had fired with 3 people. I waited on the sidelines as the Urza Stacks player ground out a win. Folks were already feeling brined from the long 3-person game, and I couldn't help feeling the animosity directed at me for not arriving earlier. I hoped we could pivot now that we had a 4-person pod. I took the first game with my off-the-wall cEDH build of Ratadrabic that capitalizes on the Ring Tempts You to loop the Nazgul and other cards that enter as non-legendary creatures, but then become legendary secondary to the Ring mechanic, thereby enabling old Ratatat to infinitely bring them back and drain the table through aristocrat shenanigans or mill. There's something uniquely satisfying when Blue Farm and Agila get stewed like a brace of conies by Samwise the Stout-Hearted. Nice reference. But I digress. Near the end of our second game, I got a text from a friend telling me that he was really struggling. He was going through some relationship stress, and I was genuinely worried for him. So I let my pod know, and I would need to dip out after our game, which ended within the next turn cycle. This was greeted with snide remarks about how I was, quote, not committed, end quote, and generally grumbling about just do what you need to do. Later that night, I was removed from the cEDH group chat. Oh my God. Even after messaging multiple people in the chat, I was never added back to the list. I get that no one likes a flake, but I am a genuinely reliable guy who goes the extra distance to communicate. I tried going to the same LGS for a few weeks afterwards, but I no longer felt welcome as I was either ignored or outwardly nagged by the cEDH guys. Oh my gosh. Although I still play casual Magic weekly, I haven't played cEDH for months. What do y'all think? Maybe it pisses people off to lose to a, quote, bad deck, and I was a victim for culling the weak decks in our meta. I don't regret putting my career and my friends first, but even if the cEDH crew is a bunch of crusty dicklings, I miss playing at a high level.
Yeah.
That took a turn, man. I didn't know this was going to be a sad story about public dejection. Good Lord.
Yeah.
They're innocent. Ben's innocent.
First of all, good on you for, departing to look after your friend. Obviously, way more important than a game of Magic. that other people don't get that is frustrating. And, maybe they're not going to understand the whole context of why it's important for you to go look after your struggling friend. But like, they could take your word for like the reason that you need to leave in a game. And they would feel less upset about it too.
Yeah. So like, I get that they were coming off a 3-person game that was pretty unpleasant. So they were already a little bit salty. There was this 4-person game that they were getting into and they're like sick, finally got the 4-person, and then it ends early. Sure. I get it. You can be frustrated. You can have frustrations about the way your personal evening goes. But I think to like remove this person from the group list and then ostracize them afterwards is just such an overreach and overreaction. Like, you can be like, man, I'm disappointed that our game is ending. But, but like, obviously it's a good reason to end the game when you need to go help out a friend who's in need. But like, holy shit, to cut someone out of a group like that, that's just really shocking.
It just feels like 0 to 100.
Yeah, it really does.
I like kind of don't understand.
Do you want me to play devil's advocate, Tony?
No, actually. So cool.
There is something to say where like, it almost seems like these would be actions that would happen after like a pattern of flaking behavior rather than a single incident. Yeah. So like, maybe there's more to the story where like this is a pattern and you haven't really noticed that you're frequently doing this, and like showing up late, like maybe this is a league or something, or there's like already some agreed upon stuff about showing up at 8 or whatever time it was that it was starting. I do think another thing is weird that they didn't just like start over when they were playing a 3-player game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're stuck in a 3-player game and they're mad about it,
just
why don't they just end that game and start the 4-player game with the player that just showed up?
Concede to
We
Urza.
do that almost every time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes you get one person that's like, no, I want to like finish it out because it's like close or this, that.
Yeah.
I think that is also pretty common that 2 people will be like, yes, I want to end it. And then like somebody else is like, oh, let's just finish it because it seems like it was close, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But to me, one of the important things is like context matters and it helps people to understand things, but you don't always have to give all the context. And like, sometimes you do just have to like, as a person, be like, okay, this person's got to go take care of something. And like, that's that.
Yeah.
Like you were sort of saying before, just like believe them, give them that level of it. And just because I think you're right, Mike, maybe there's like some element of pattern that other people are seeing that maybe writer isn't seeing, but it's like, I don't know, you did the right thing in the moment. Like there's no like question around that or anything. And it's like, not all communities are going to be like this. And hopefully you have another one that's like nearby. And if you don't, I don't know, join our fucking Discord because we've got a great community there.
Teach some of those casual players how to play cEDH. They'll figure it out.
What percentage of the salt stories do you think boil down to like a deficiency in communication, like the inability to communicate effectively or like miscommunicate? So many. I think a lot of it is about communicating in
most. Yeah.
I think that's life personally.
Yeah.
Like, almost all issues just boil down to like a lack of communication ability.
Are you saying you think communications degrees are the problem with everything?
Yeah, fuck people with those degrees.
or am I misunderstanding you?
No, you got it right. Like,
I just think that the person writing the salty story, if they did everything they could, I have no reason not to believe them. I believe they did. They were being a good friend to their friend. So if that is like some kind of assessment of their character, they seem like a good person. If anything, all shadows point to the sun. These aren't your people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the kind of people you want to play Magic with. If it's like you're walking on eggshells, you can't fuck up, you can't be late, you can't dip out if like personal life comes up, that's not like a safe place to like spend your time or interact with people. Like, Tony's right. There are good online spaces. And like, I know what it's like to be in a remote area. And like, it's kind of unrealistic that anybody would find like a group of like-minded, competitive individuals who enjoy the same game, all in their same town, at the same card shop, in the same neck of the woods. It's rare. Like, you kind of curate a good community through the internet these days. I mean, some of us do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at us. We're not all in the same place right now, but we're good friends. So like, I think like you can find those people. All right, lovers, Tony. Okay, jeez, I didn't want to say it on the show.
You're right. I wanted it to be stronger, and now I feel better.
Soulmates, if you will.
Yeah, because
brothers.
I do love you. Cool.
Brothers.
Bald brothers.
I mean,
shaved my
hell yeah,
head
bro.
for Tony, and this is what I get.
I wanted you to proclaim it, and now you have, so we're
I
good.
shaved my head for Tony. I burned all my blue cards. What else do I have to do? I put all this wicker up in the apartment. I've done everything.
Oh, man.
You can't satisfy him, Tim. Just let him
You
go.
just can't make him happy.
And how much Selesnya have you been playing?
Can't make him happy. Move on.
But no, you're totally right, dude. If those people aren't supporting you in that moment and they're letting like the frustration of a single game night full of an annoying 3-player game and, you know, potentially like, I guess predictably maybe another annoying 3-person game after you left, if they're letting that shit affect how they treat you as a person, then fuck those people. You don't need them, man. Like that community, you know, I'm sure there's good people in that community, but if they pushed you out, then they can't all be good. Like something has gone wrong there, or at the very least, it's not a good match for you. So later days, peace out, you know, find a new crew and enjoy that crew.
Yeah. If it's keeping with the casual players you're playing with already, great. If it's finding another store or an online community, there's all kinds of options there too.
Because they did say they miss playing at the high.
Yeah, they miss
bars.
playing it.
Yep.
So that's
do
what
miss
they
the
want. That's like the
cEDH.
thing. It's like, I want to play competitive, but these aren't my tribe. And like, that's real. You know, that's real.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that I think we can all relate on some aspect of our own lives where it's just been like, yeah, I really want to like engage in this activity, but I don't feel
Not
like
with these
Group,
people.
isn't it?
Not with these
Yeah, not with
people.
these
Yeah.
For sure,
Yeah.
dude. For sure.
What do we think about the salt rating on this one?
High.
Ooh, man, it's a high, sad salt.
Yeah.
You know, it almost even goes beyond salt. It's just kind of a failure of like human relationships in a space that's supposed to be about fun and playing games. And when you have, you know, something personal that comes up and you hope that people will be understanding and they choose not to be and they push you out, that's like kind of the biggest failure that could, or one of the biggest failures that could even happen in that situation. So it's incredibly high. It's incredibly high.
Yeah. I feel like it's like a sad salt that you can control in not like giving up, and like hopefully you find empowerment in yourself to go find that group of people that like is good, because to just not play it ever again from this one bad experience would be sad.
That's not the answer.
Yeah.
But I know that it's like hard to like get up that activation to go do exactly that.
Totally.
But like I hope you do, because I'm fucking cEDH pilled out the wazoo right now.
Good.
So like I want you to feel that
good.
too. I want you to feel good about it when you're playing and like enjoy it.
I think we're beating a dead horse here, but I think it's important to mention that like it is actually a natural to experience some setbacks and growing pains on your way to finding your tribe. You know, I think about it like when you were like maybe back in college, like the first friends you make, some of them might still be around, but not all of them. You know what I mean? You're kind of feeling it out and finding like the people who have more like vibe with your sense of humor or your mindset, or people that can teach you something. So it takes a little bit. I mean, when I first got into cEDH, like I had some setbacks. I, you know, did some art for some people that never paid me, and all those experiences could have like really turned me off to cEDH.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was disappointing, and I did feel salty, but like eventually I was like, oh, there are other people out there who are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, for sure. And I will say there's a little postscript here that this person did join our Patreon. So, hey, welcome to the community.
Nice.
What's up? Welcome, Benjamin.
Yeah, Ben, a.k.a. Doc Mind Twist. So thanks for joining, Ben.
Hope you got some good games in.
Hope we're giving you that community that you were missing, you know?
But if you have to dip from a game for personal reasons, it's
Yeah,
over,
you're
dude.
out. You're banned.
Yeah, we're gonna fucking
We will
perma-ban
ban your
you.
ass.
You are gone, dude. I don't care what your friend is going through. You're out of here. This is a pattern with you.
That traffic is, it's too hard to say it's not cEDH.
Yeah, it's not cEDH. The deal is only.
Oh, man.
Well, how about another one?
Yeah.
let's do it.
I like talking to you guys. It's fun.
Oh, well, thanks, Tim. So this next story comes to us from our buddy Ginger, and this post is titled "Very Calmly, Politely, and Kindly Teaching a New cEDH Player Threat Analysis." And the story goes, "Hey, salty lads. I recently started listening to the podcast, and I've been loving it. Keeps me company while doing all my tedious day-to-day chores. I recently started playing cEDH with some friends in my hometown over summer, and I decided to try playing with a local group at my LGS where I go to college. I met a group of people, got into their Discord, and much fun was had. The salt comes in the second time I played with this group, my third time ever playing cEDH. I'm running an Atali turbo deck because fuck yeah, brain dead dinosaurs. I'm the get fucked fourth player in the pod of seat 1,
Nice.
Tivit, Blue Farm, and Timna Thrasios. Turn 1 Tivit gets down a blind obedience, completely shutting down all my Dockside shenanigans. Rest in peace, Dockside. Turn 2, Timna Thras plays Granith Magistrate, and now I'm really screwed, as now none of my win conditions function with the 2 stacks pieces.
Ooh.
Fast forward a few turns, and I've done a whole lot of nothing. I'm looking at a hand with Heat Shimmer and Gamble, with enough mana to cast Atali and Shimmer it. I debated over whether it was better to gamble for a way to blow up Blind Obedience or Dranith, and ultimately decided my best chance of winning was to get my 2 Atali triggers and hope to piece something from there, since I didn't have a way to get or loop Dockside. I ended up gambling for a bolt and cast it on the Dranith, at which point the Timna Thras player started getting pissed. She said, and I quote, "That's an incredibly fucking stupid play," and started berating me for how bad my analysis was.
Nice.
She told me without Dranith on board, Tivit would kill us all, and kept saying how stupid that gamble was. And look, I see her point. Maybe there was a better route to victory there, but I'm very new to cEDH, and I wanted to see my big stupid dinosaur hit the field. The Tivit player tried to back me up, but that kind of made me feel worse.
Yeah.
Eventually, I decided to go with my gut, because at least if this worked, I'd get to see my dino go roar. And I do believe that was one of my higher chance win lines, since if I did nothing or blew up Blind Ob, someone else would win before it got back to me. The guy on Blue Farm ended up force of willing my bolt, so I did nothing and passed to Tivit, who immediately cast Demonic Consultation plus Thassa's Oracle for the win. Ironically, blowing up Dranith would have done nothing there, and the consult was a top deck, so Tali entering would have exiled the combo. Overall, it just felt really shitty, since the Timna Thras player knew I was new and could have been much nicer and tried to teach me the strategy behind threat analysis instead of just ripping into me for making a play that disadvantaged her. I ended up leaving this game because the vibes were off. I've played with this group since, and things are generally fun and good, but I still don't really like being in a pod with that Timna Thras player. Frowny face emoji.
Well, I think that it's clear that the issue is not the threat assessment, it's that player. And you shouldn't tell anybody that their play is stupid.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I've never had anyone say that to me in a game, or I've never heard someone say it to someone else in a game, or really, unless it's like totally busting chops and there's like, we're all friends and it's like, Kev is making fun of Cal or something. Like that's totally different. But if it's someone who's a relative stranger or something like that, that's just like totally uncalled for. That's just like not kind, respectful. I would have called a judge, even if it was an LGS, I would have escalated it. I was in a game once where someone kept calling me like Bud, and I was like, that's not my name. Like, don't
like sarcastically.
Yeah, they're like, okay, Bud, okay, Chief. And I was like, I told you my name's Tim. You can call me Tim. But I don't want you to call me that. And they kept doing it. And I was like, I'm calling a judge. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to do it to tilt me. So I was just like, I'm not going to let them win. I'm just going to call a judge. Like, if you're uncomfortable and someone's like saying your play is stupid, you're not a baby to call the judge. Like, that's what judges and TOs are for. That's what shop owners are for. They're going to help facilitate a healthy gameplay experience. Call in someone else, because someone should not be telling you you're stupid in a game.
Yeah.
In fact, that kind of talking, with like the rule set for certain tournaments, like that can get someone like a game loss or a turn skip.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Be like, that play's stupid. Like that can get them, there's serious ramifications for that. Don't do that.
It's a tough situation because that will come out when players perceive someone as new. Like we were actually talking about this a little bit earlier, Tim, about like how your perception of how a different player plays shapes how you interact with them. And some people will see a new player, not with this language, but see a new player and assume that that means any decision the newer player is making is bad. If you're new, then you're dumb for removing this Dranith. You must not be seeing the full picture. Then there's the, like you're saying, Tim, there's the second issue of calling someone stupid. And like that's obviously not cool. But like even before then, there's this level of like, people will be overly critical of new players. And I don't know, I think it's super important when you're teaching or kind of sharing information about threat assessment is to always just like talk about that face up shit on the board and like point out the things that that you're freeing up that player, pointing all those things out, super valid. But like the judgment call piece does need to end up landing with like the person taking the game action. We were chuckling about this because Tony and I had a big blow up moment a couple days ago where I really thought Tony did the wrong thing. And
Please, you and Sam thought it.
yeah, we both
but I
thought
didn't
you
want to
did the
talk
wrong
about it,
thing.
man. I just wanted to be a little bit salty and end the evening. And Mike was like, "No, let's talk about this." I
Yeah,
was
let's
like,
get
"You're
into
dragging
this.
me
Let's get
it."
into this because I was trying to resolve it in a satisfying way, and I was trying to get to the bottom of the, I think it's dumb to cast a Tali here or / remove the Dranith versus it's not,
Well, real quick, I do think this is very different. I mean, if we're going to jump into our real life example here,
let's not go into that.
I think it's very different because saying that someone is making an incredibly fucking stupid play is very different from like wanting to talk about the logistics of a targeting situation when something's on the stack and then revisiting it after a game. I feel like it's a different level of berating when you're just saying someone is incredibly fucking stupid than being like, pause, let's talk about this before that goes
extremely
off.
different.
You're casting it like, where can we best talk about this targeting priority? And just being like immediately like you're a fucking idiot and you don't see the game as well as I do and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I agree that like aggressive terms like that make it worse. But like if you're the person that has made a choice and other people are like, I just think that's wrong, it's almost effectively saying the same thing. It's effectively being like, I think that's stupid. I think that you're dumb. And that's what it feels like. And like, that's why I've left that game feeling salty, because like both of you made me feel that way. And I was like, it's not the intent, but that's what happens. And at the end of the day, a decision is made regardless of what other players like want it to be. Like it's a game. That's like what happens. And it's like, you never have the full picture of what the other person is like thinking, like why they choose to do something. And once they do, they have. I think in cEDH, it's more of a game of like, when it happens, and it can definitely be frustrating for everybody on all sides. But like in casual, I think it's more common to talk through everything. And like maybe it like changes a decision, but it's like you start to get all these chefs being like, oh, do this instead, because we're all trying to move towards our own win. Right. Like it's like a whole part of it that can be frustrating for sure.
Tony, I think you're right. I think
how does Mike?
No, I think you're both right. I think that I think everyone's right.
Nice.
So what I mean to say is
the Venmo's coming through, Tim.
Thank God. Here's the issue is that there is a constructive way to point out when somebody is making a boneheaded play and potentially king making another player. And those things in competitive are good to talk about too. So like when someone puts a spell on the stack, it's good to sometimes to use your words instead of using your spells. Because sometimes I say to someone I will counter this because I'm so far out of the game. If you do that right now, I'm going to counter it. And then we're shields down if they go for the win on their turn. You're kind of forcing my hand. I'll show you the counter spell, but if you remove that stack piece, we're dead. And sometimes just having these conversations heads up in a respectful way of just, like you said, at the competitive level on EDH is always 3v1, 3v1. Don't make a 1v1 with the player trying to remove a stacks piece. Try to frame it in the 3v1 again in a respectful way. And I think that she was trying to do that, but she kind of, fumbled the bag by calling the person stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in a high stakes tournament and we were in a pod where one player was really, really, really far ahead. And the Gruul stacks player was going to lay down another stacks piece that took two of us who were behind out of the game.
Right.
It didn't hurt the player who was the farthest ahead.
Right.
It just hurt us
or something.
And I just said to the person, honestly, I was like, okay, are you sure you want to cast this? Because you better be able to solo this player who has 15 cards in hand. Because if you play the stacks piece, we're not playing Magic and there's one turn left. I think that's a way to pose it where you're saying hey, it's us versus them. And if that person goes for example, with the person who wrote the letter this week, if they were listen, my only out is casting my commander. The Dranith has got to go. How can they gripe you for that?
Then the other player knows to hold their force, and you just make it through to the Thassa's consult turn, and you stop it there.
Yeah, and you still have something.
I think that's a healthy way to for everyone communicating, not just the person who feels bad who got called stupid for their play, but also the salt and frustration of the player that's what are you doing? You're king making, you're punting the game for us. Remember earlier I was saying that that's one thing that kind of maybe I find annoying is that when people talk about cEDH there's some talking heads that always make it sound like it's never their fault. They're like, I'm a great player, but every time I sit down to pod, someone just like, their threat assessment is so bad. And I just like, come on, like everyone has culpability. Like use your words. If they're going to cast a blind obedience and you're like, listen, if you cast blind obedience, like you're only putting the us behind and we're already behind and you want us to help fight against player one. That's good communicating. That's helping you, save some spells, and it's good for the table. Those are tough things to learn, but we practice these things in games because then we become better in life at like conflict resolution, And I think like it's better to like talk it out in the moment than to stew about it,
Jumping off what you were saying and what Tony was saying, like Tony was saying that like you're never going to know what your opponent's perspective is when they're looking at targeting priority and things like that. But at the same time, like people do have blind spots. And I think it's worth talking through things. And if at the end of that conversation, like the target is still selected, then, that's just what happens. Like the targets get selected and spells resolve, right? Like that's the game. Yeah. But like, I think it's worth talking through that stuff. And, even if you do disagree with somebody's target, I think to say that you think that they're stupid or something like that is kind of a step further beyond maybe intent. Obviously, this person is saying quite literally that they think someone is incredibly fucking stupid. But like, you can disagree with someone's targeting priority and just be like, well, I don't think that you see what I'm seeing on the board, and you want to like talk it through, Whereas this person is just really coming out and saying like, that is fucking stupid. And you're an idiot as well. Name
calling and foul language, we know, is like the failure of language. It's the failure of communication.
Well, swearing is kind of cool, though.
It's cool. It's like cigarette smoking is cool. Yeah, of course. Like leather jackets are cool. Spiked hair, hot rod,
Crocs,
mullets,
playing off Nicholas crime. But the thing is, you can't like, that's their failure of language. That's like their frustration.
Yeah, exactly. That's like the salt coming through in that moment.
Yeah. And I think Tony made an interesting point earlier, which is that even if someone is just pointing out board state and is trying to just like aim it at like the game state and the game actions, even in those scenarios, it's pretty easy to like
take it personally,
interpret or feel like it's an insult too, which is like pretty shitty. So like if you're ever going to give that kind of feedback, and I'm saying this is something I need to take to heart sometimes too.
Not me though.
Yeah, definitely not Sam. You got to be really careful with how you express that. And this is in particular is a way that I think I fucked up when we had our thing going on, Tony, which is need to wait for the end of the game.
This is Mike's way of saying sorry, Tony. Tony, do you accept Mike's apology?
Definitely not.
That's fine.
No,
that's fine. We'll just play more games, and I'll silence you more.
What do we think about the salt rating on this one?
This is something that Mike says all the time. It is always a shame when a negative, salty situation causes a new player or a player that's new to an experience to say, I did something wrong and I'm hesitant to go back to that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that this person has gone back and has appreciated more games with this group. But the fact that you had such a negative experience with this one player where you don't want to play with them anymore, that is a failure. I think new players in all formats need to be, supported, and nurtured. Exactly. And that's a failing of a group for sure when that happens. High salt, if I didn't say it already. That's incredibly high salt for me.
Like anchovy? Is that a high salt anchovy, tinned anchovy?
Ooh, you know what? It is an anchovy. Oh, no. I was going to say it's an anchovy because I think they don't taste good, but I actually do really like anchovies. I didn't like them when I was a kid, but now I like them. And that does not really quite fit the metaphor.
There's some biological reasons for that. We can talk about it later.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll tell you later.
Subscribe to the Patreon
to find out about non-regenerative cells.
I think this is like the potato-based veggie straw of salt. Because like it's at its core, this piece of like someone took an action, one player got really annoyed by it and felt targeted and kind of spoke out and like called them a name. at its core, that's like the potato of saltiness. It's like the most standard format that we see like saltiness show up, but it's also not the saltiest ever. Like it's super annoying. I don't like that this player did this, but like also everybody got through it and the player is still having an enjoyable experience. So it's like, it wasn't enough to really, it clearly wasn't a high enough salt to actually kick this player out, but definitely a high enough salt that it shouldn't be something you ever eat, just like a potato veggie straw. This veggie straws suck.
Oh man, that's where it was.
We got there.
Wow,
we got there,
that
folks.
is you didn't tell me this was a poetry podcast. That was beautiful. I'm crying right now.
Sheds a
Dry your
single
eyes,
tear.
Good Lord.
Oh man,
Should we do one more?
Yeah, do
I
it.
think we simply must.
Let's do it.
So this last story comes to us from our buddy Tony Brown, and this post is titled "Fair Play for Fair Rewards." And the story goes, this title could also be called A Tale of Two Tonys, as I imagine your Tony wouldn't have made the same decisions I made. Keep up the good work, guys.
Wow, we're about to find out.
Yeah, we're about to find
You
out.
don't know,
That's-
Tony.
You gonna learn today.
We're about to find out if this is complimentary or insulting. Let's get into it.
You know which one I'm rooting for, right?
I mean, I can assume I already know which direction it'll go.
And the story goes, it's one of my local gaming store's monthly cEDH tournament games. With pairings up, the 4-round tournament starts with the top 4 making it into the finals. Game 1 is almost a non-game, as I kept a risky hand that could have been a turn 2 Thoracle win. I present a win, but ultimately failed to do much else. Game 2 is a slog fest, with a pesky turn 2 collector oof that somehow only I care to see removed. The frustrating part of this game is that we all end up in a stalemate, where I'm only preventing players from winning. Someone presents a win, and the rest of the players pass priority, helplessly staring at me for any interaction. This goes on until there are 2 minutes left on the clock, and the Yisan player announces, we should be looking for the draw here and prevent player 1 from winning, so let's run the clock down. I quickly respond, I want to draw too, but don't slow play. You all need to be progressing the game or I'll call the judge. The Yisan player drags his feet a little, but my turn gets around to me with 1 minute and 30 seconds left on the clock. I proceed with the game as normal, fetching for land and gambling to eat time down a little before passing. With 50 seconds left, the last player eats up the remainder of the time before ending his turn in overtime. Player 1 is fuming after essentially open discussions of slow playing, never getting his final turn, and refuses to shake anyone's hands. I apologized, and he said, it's not your fault, before dropping out from the event. Game 3, another non-game after being taxed hard and whiffing my few openings for the win. Game 4, one player is playing Nadu, rest in peace, and the rest of us begin talking about how busted he is and how he should be banned in Modern. Wow. What is this from? Is this from
That was an old one.
July? This story is from July. For some reason, this ignites the Nadu player, who immediately gets irritated and defends this objectively strong card.
Is this you, Tim?
I think
He
it's
was
Tim.
handsome.
He was handsome. He was
Thick and
very
handsome.
artistic.
Bald hair with an artistic flair. Sensual lips.
I was immediately brought in by his deft card flicking.
Yeah.
Nadu is the starting player, and he immediately plays Urza Saga, which he will undoubtedly use to fetch for Shuko.
Suspend Shuko.
To suspend Shuko?
No, that's what they call Urza Saga. They used to call it Suspend Shuko.
Oh, that's great. It really is, dude.
It is.
It's just like, I almost cut it because it makes the target too big.
Yeah. You're just like,
Yeah,
hey,
it's pretty
Shuko's coming
obvious.
down in a couple turns.
Yeah.
Get your licks in now, everybody.
Yeah, clench your buns.
Get those oppos ready.
Yeah, right. Turn 2, I'm forced to hold up a counterspell for Nadu, as Shuko and Nadu will hit the board on turn 3. Turn 3, Shuko is out and Nadu is cast, and I counter it with a short rant from Nadu. It's put back into the command zone, and on my turn, I play a Wishclaw Talisman and pass it to the friendly Shorakai player. The Magda player goes next and casts a Blood Moon, locking me out from the game as I'm the only player mainly running non-basics. I tell the Shorakai player that I'll remove the Blood Moon on my turn if he gives me the claw back, and he obliges. The next turn, Nadu is cast again, only to be countered again. The Nadu player exclaims, you guys are all throwing and hating me out of this game. We all roll our eyes, and it gets back to my turn. In an attempt to be fair and feeling a bit drained, I fetch a feed for the Swarm instead of a Dockside, which could win me the game. only to realize that I don't have any black mana to remove the Blood Moon, as none of my artifacts produce colored mana. I shamefully pass for the next few turns using all my free counterspells except a Pact of Negation to stop Shorkai and Nadu. We get to another Shorikai Isochron win attempt, and it's a counter war between Nadu and Shorikai, with the Shorikai player having the last counterspell on the stack. I painfully use my priority to pact the Shorikai's counterspell and stop him from winning, as it is technically the right thing to do. Nadu casts a Scoot Swarm with Nadu already on the board and wins with a smug-ass grin and gloaty good games. Feeling defeated and exhausted and a bit dirty after letting that bitch-ass bird win, Tim is shaking his head. I talked to one of the staff for a bit and say, I want to make a regrettable purchase and maybe feel like a winner. Can I get the 7th edition pack? Many people discourage me from opening the pack, but I proceed anyway. I shovel down to the last card and gasp. Were my good deeds to be rewarded? Was that a foily card in the back? Yes, it was. It was a foil oppression. With a big smile, I head home feeling like a winner. The moral of the story is that sometimes doing the right thing isn't your only reward. Sorry for the long story. Love you guys. Interesting. We got a couple different pieces of salt here.
A few acts. 3 acts here.
3 acts.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But let's start with Act 1, which is Game 2, where we have this sort of let's draw it out, let's slow play, the collector oof and stuff like that is out. This is an interesting one because player 1 is clearly salty, like obviously salty, fuming from the story description.
And that's fair. It sucks to lose because the game timer doesn't get back around to you. It's like one of the least satisfying ways for the game to end, especially when you have a good shot at it and it ends on the turn right before you.
But that's life, dude.
It is, but it doesn't make it feel good, you know?
Yeah, get over it. Come on. What is this? A show for babies?
But it is interesting that they were talking about, like, they were salty because there were open discussions of slow playing, never got their final turn, and refused to shake anyone's hands. Okay, sportsmanship stuff aside, obviously it sucks to not get around to your turn, but I feel like the open discussions of slow playing in that moment were in good faith. They were like, hey, let's run out the clock.
Don't slow play.
Don't slow play, or I will call a judge, and I'm not even player 1. You know, like OP is like, I will call the judge here if you're slow playing. Like, let's do this, but let's do it fairly. I don't know if you can, like, you can be frustrated in this situation, but I don't know if you can be like, oh, you guys were talking about slow playing openly.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
That's good sportsmanship to talk about slow playing in that way, right?
I don't feel like that's true. I feel like the way I took the story is that one person was like, we should slow play. Let's fucking do this. And then the other person was like, that's wrong. We shouldn't do that. We should play.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that they were all like trying to be good about it. It's that somebody was like, yo, we should fuck this guy.
But it sounds like someone spoke up in the moment and was like, I will call a judge. And they were kind of progressing the game at like a considerate clip. Like, that's tournament magic, like turn order and turn equity. And like, it's just like, it is what it is. Like, you have 4 different players imposing their will and desires on the game. Like, you're not going to always have it your way.
For sure. I just don't want to. I do think that that's how the story was, though, not like everybody being like, oh, let's fairly do this. It was like, no, like this person's trying to fuck something. Like, I don't do tournament play, right? Like, I don't think I'd like it because of some of these types of things where
because you'd lose.
I would feel weird. I probably would lose too, but like I'd feel weird about those exact moments where I know it's
Tim, leave him alone. Leave him alone. He said no pickles. He said no pickles on his burger. Actually,
no, I always want pickles on my burger.
He said
extra pickles.
And you left them
extra pickles.
God. I couldn't resist, Tony. But the point is, the person is upset about slow play. Slow play got brought up, and the table was like, "Come, guys, slow play's bad. I'll call a judge." So what are they complaining about? They got what they wanted. Cooler heads prevailed, and like justice was served. Like they didn't slow play.
Sort of. It sounds like they slow played as much as they could without attempting to get in trouble. Like again, this is where I'm saying like I don't play competitively, so it's like I feel like I would feel weird, and by that I mean like in tournaments where that becomes a factor of like. Oh. I mean,
Mike, leave him alone. He said extra pickles. But yeah, I mean, I do think you have a good point, Tony. Like, there's a weird feeling that happens when the table is trying to fairly take game actions to extend the clock and burn it down to deny you a win. That is technically not slow play. It's like, hey, we're not gonna slow play, but we will play slowly.
Yeah.
Then they should have called the judge, because remember, like there's a famous instance where, Memo, the famous Najila player, like cracked a Tinder wall to like take extra game actions, and they got DQ'd.
Really? I didn't know that.
They called the judge and he got DQ'd, for cracking a Tinder wall, nothing to do with it. And he was like, yeah, I knew what I was doing.
Oh man, Memo,
which is
if you're
funny.
listening.
Like, even he could laugh about it. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. At that point, you're starting to play the tournament instead of playing Magic.
Yeah.
And that can be really frustrating if what you want is to be playing Magic. However, if you signed up for a tournament, you also signed up to play the tournament part. So you have to expect that as part of the Magic that you're playing. Does it suck? Do you wish you could compete purely in Magic? Like, definitely. I think a lot of people would say yes. And like, some people really like the tournament part, and that's what keeps them coming back. But I think it's fair to be annoyed by, but also you are going to get that when you sign up for a tournament. So at least expect it.
Also, like, to be fair, I would be salty as fuck if this happened to me.
Exactly.
I'd be
I'd
so
be annoyed.
grumpy, like, so I do think it's fair, but I don't know. It's just a complex thing. It's a good conversation to have, because it's a complex piece of tournament play.
So what about Act 2?
Act 2, Game 4, we have this foul, stinky Nadu player complaining. You guys are all throwing and hating me out of this game. Just a real pissant with this poor Shurikai player just trying to combo off and in peace, playing fair Magic over here.
You don't know though, but like the complaining is just music to our ears. We love it. Us Nadu boys, us Bird boys, we love it. We love to hear you bitch and moan. Keep on complaining.
What are you gonna do? Ban it?
Yeah, what kind of world would be it where they
There's this interesting thing that happens in here. Like, obviously, there's a bunch of salt in here about Nadu being strong, the Nadu player getting salty because they're being targeted, probably because they're just playing a very powerful and explosive deck. But like, the actual salt here comes from our buddy Tony here, making this deal with Shurikai that they are gonna remove the Blood Moon if they get the Wish Claw back. They give them the Wish Claw back, and they're like, I could win here. I could get my dockside and win right now and break this deal. But instead, I am going to make good on my deal, and I'm going to try to remove that Blood Moon. And then they just are blind to their own mana production. They get to feed the Swarm, and they don't have the black mana to cast it. So not only do you're trying to do the right thing and making good on your deal because the Wish Claw was given back to you, but you actually can't remove the Blood Moon, which is an interesting thing. And then you get stuck behind it.
Shurikai player? I can't remember. Did they kind of like, mea culpa and explain what happened, or no?
It doesn't really say that. It just says that they shamefully passed the turn, and for the next few turns, all they can do is just use free counter spells to stop other people, because they're basically locked up behind the Blood Moon. So, I mean, the Shurikai player kind of gets left like flapping in the wind, because just nothing happened where they're like, give me back the Wish Claw. I'll remove the Blood Moon, and then they get it back, and they're like, pass turn.
Yeah.
Well, at least they didn't go for a win. That was what they said they could have done.
Yes. Yeah. So that's kind of the thing. Like, personally, I think I would have kept the deal, even if it was to my detriment, which obviously, clearly here it was.
I think being cooperative in a 4-player game is always to your benefit. I think keeping deals is good, because that way you get people, you have friends, and like you can get people to cast spells for you. But if you have no goodwill in the game, you don't have enough resources as one player to beat everybody, and you don't have enough resources to like push through your wins or stop everybody. You need to be able to collaborate. And when you get pegged as a liar or someone who goes back on their deals, you're going solo, and you better be a real big dog if you think you can win that game 3v1,
I feel like in cEDH, though, I strive to not make deals. I make pleas. Like, please don't remove my thing, whatever it might be. But I try not to get into a situation where if I have like a fucking tutor that I have to like go tutor to, I more be like, who's got answers? Like, because I can't is usually one thing. Like, I can't do anything. So like, does somebody else have an answer, or like?
Wish Claw kind of forces the issue, because you want to try and give it to someone in a way that's not going to backfire.
Well said.
I'd rather somebody else take it then, though. If like I'm gonna take it just to find a removal piece for something for other people, like I don't know, I'll do it if that like is what's needed. But I feel like I'm more inclined for somebody to send me one and be like, you got to get removal. Like, I know your deck, you're in black, so I'm hoping you've got something to remove this creature, this whatever. But like, I'm generally not trying to volunteer to be like, give it to me so that I can like spend my resources to go like.
But sometimes Tony, sometimes you volunteer and be like, hey, if you give it to me, I'll just get a land. That's some way of you telling the table. It's like, we don't want this like loaded gun on the table. Like, I don't. Anybody else who gets it could go for the win, you know. And I think sometimes like diffusing like the wish claw or something like that is like I think it's always advantageous to use your words, and like you can stretch your spells because it's not 1v1 magic, it's 3v1. So like anytime something happens, like someone's going to tutor and I'll be like, I always ask, what are you tutoring for? And I'll just say like, you know, I have a counter spell. Like, are you going to force me to counter this right now? Like, this counter spell's not getting any better. Like, tell me you're not trying to win. If you're trying to win, it's all hands on deck. But if it's not, I think it's good to just like use your words, because then you don't end up in those bad situations where like you totally like shoot your shot too early and then you're all left pants down and someone goes for it, you know?
Yeah, I've been in games with a Wishclaw Talisman where I think this was with Josh from Elder Drunken Highlander, where I had a Wishclaw and I use it. And then I'm like, am I going to give it to this Rog side player? Am I going to give it to this, you know, I think it was a Dargo Thras player or like a Rog Thras player or something. And I was like, I don't really want to give it to either of you. And Josh was like, give it to me and I just won't crack it. I won't use it for the whole game. Just give it to me and we won't even use it. I was like, yeah, you won't use it? He's like, I won't use it. If I use it, I'll concede. Like, I 100% won't use it. Let's just take the threat of the Wishclaw off the board completely, because both of those two are going to use it for something nefarious. And I'm not gonna. Just give it to me. Let's functionally turn it off. And we did. And to Josh's credit, he never cracked it for the entire game and just sat on it.
That's good magic.
Well, Tony, I think we should ask you, would you have done all of these things differently?
Yeah, Tony.
I think I would have spoken up about the slow pay thing. I would have been like, no, we shouldn't do that, because I feel like that would irk me a lot, which they did in this scenario, if I remember correctly.
They did.
And then trying to fuck over Nadu.
Go ahead, Tony. Get him in.
You know, honestly, I fucking do hate blue, but it's the one like Simic bullshit commander that I was thinking about doing, because you just twiddle yourself forever. But then they fucking banned it. So, and I said this to the boys and they're like, this is probably true, that if I had actually built Nadu as well before this ban happened, I would have quit cEDH. I would have been like, I'm done with this. I don't want to play this anymore. I hate it. All my toys are ruined and I'm leaving. And so I'm glad that I didn't build Nadu.
Yeah, we dodged a bullet.
Yeah, we really did. We really did.
Hanging on by a fingernail.
But Tony, would you have kept that deal? Would you have gone for the win, or would you have kept the deal?
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at, that it's like, I would have kept the deal, but I would have hated it. I would have just tried to not make the deal to begin with.
Yeah, you wouldn't have made the deal in the first place.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I think that's the difference. But like, if I had made a deal, I would definitely do it, but it would feel real bad. And I would have done what they did, probably, of like being like, fuck, I don't have the mana to do this.
Yeah.
Although
I mean, you would have got
on my
like bullied into a deal you didn't want to make and then punted. I will say though, it's really interesting. I would say, just as a heuristic for my point of view, I don't see anything advantageous for you casting spells for other players. Like, that means that's a very good politicker. You're going to watch some of the best politickers in cEDH. And shout out to, like, I think like Jorman, Freedom Waffle, Ian, they're good players. But one thing they do really effectively is they can like use their words to get other people to cast spells for them.
Oh yeah, man.
And like, you do not want to be casting anyone else's spells for them at all. I mean, like, really good players do it. That means that like they're tapping mana that's not theirs to cast spells that, you know, like, it's wild. Or like, you know, the players that are just like, oh, we need to find an answer to so-and-so. If you could just draw me a card, like, you don't draw them a card. Like, don't do it. And like, like, why would you tutor to get rid of the Blood Moon for like the Shorakai player? You know, the Shorakai player's toady, you know what I mean? Like,
if you can use your words to cast a spell that says target player discards a counter spell and another target player discards a win con, you're gonna play that spell.
Definitely. But also at the same time, if you can have somebody give you a Wishclaw talisman to further your own board state and be like, I'm helping you out like that. Obviously, it didn't come to fruition here because your mana situation was fucked. But removing that Blood Moon would have brought this player back into the game.
Yeah. What do we think about the salt rating here on this one?
No, it's super salty. They're crybaby. They hate naughty. They need to grow up. Too salty. Anchovy.
I think no salt at all. They rightfully bullied that
threat assessment.
stinky Nadu player. Like I could kind of smell them through the story. It kind of got muddy towards the end. It sounds like the Nadu player was king made, which they probably needed to win. So, I can't really tell. Man, damn, the email got deleted. I guess we'll never know.
We'll just say it was the Marath player who won. Rhetorical.
I think we all win because we had a great conversation about it.
Hey, friendship. It's the friends we made along the way. Well, Sam, is it that fucking time of the week?
Ooh, Tony, I think it is that time of the week.
Oh, baby, lay it on me. What time of the week is it?
It's the time of the week that comes every week.
Every motherfucking week.
It's the time of the week where we say, Mike.
Mike.
What's the salty card of the week?
The salty card of the week this week is...
And I play control, and I play with spite. I counter your spells for the whole game night. The power of blue is in my soul. If you play with me, the salt will flow.
And that is Thunder Rolls, a little parody of Thunder Rolls by Garth Brooks, as requested from our patron Brandon Mousekop.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Good choice.
This is cool. This is cool to see how the sausage is made.
Oh yeah.
They do this. You're like spontaneously like a cappella singing.
I'm just singing a song.
Great. you just like break into song. Like Tony, it's not like pre-recorded. Tony says this every time. Mike is like looking for a card.
Yeah, I'm pulling the fucking card.
Exactly. I didn't think it's how it happened. It's like
It's a raw
it's
moment,
like
man.
behind the scenes when you see like the horses galloping. It's like some coconuts like flopping on something.
yeah, we're the
It's
coconuts.
raw, baby. We like it raw.
Yeah.
Real quick, did you guys know that Garth Brooks is one of the most decorated musicians to ever live when it comes to like Grammy nominations and like top songs and shit like that? Like literally one of the most decorated musicians, if not the most to ever live. It's fucking crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, my wife saw him in Phoenix. She said he was just like totally like a complete like animal. He performed for like 5 hours. He just like didn't stop. The people were like that, like they're like, "Come on, guys, please, we're having a great time, but we need to go home." And he was just like jamming on his guitar and just like, going nuts. It was wild. She said it was like totally insane. It was like a man possessed.
In 2012, he passed the Beatles as the top selling act of the past 20 years. Fucking nuts, dude.
That is insane.
Fucking insane.
That's crazy. That's some perspective right there.
And he's the first and only artist in music history to achieve 7 career Diamond Award albums.
What?
Fucking nuts. Garth. Get it, Garth.
Get it, Garth.
Well, thanks, Garth, and thanks, Sam, for that lovely salty song of the week.
Thank you, Mike.
The salty card of the week this week is Magus of the Moon.
Ooh.
2 in a red for a human wizard. It's a 2/2 and says non-basic lands or mountains. May have gotten a sneak peek of it, but Timmy, how do you feel about this card?
I think it's pretty salty because I think this is a good episode because you get to callbacks. You got good callbacks. Like I think when we talk about salt in a competitive sense, a lot of it is about like frustration and king making.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a stacks piece at the wrong time that takes other players out of the game, but doesn't really hinder one player can be really salt inducing, because Mike, you're a CSA player. Like when you see someone drop like the Magda player drop Magus of the Moon, you were like licking your chops. You're like, oh no, not a Magus of the Moon.
I just tutor out my basic forest, dude, and and I let it
I'm just gonna
ride.
kill you. Yeah, like the CSA players don't care about it. Like to have a punishing stacks piece that like certain players can totally ignore is so salt inducing.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of magic we were talking about where someone's like, oh, we're at this table and like they tapped out to cast Magus and then I couldn't interact. And then the CSA player just like killed us, like, they went through their tutor chain never having to tap a non-basic land. And like that sucks.
Yeah.
So I think it's really salty, actually. I think like this is one of those ones where it's probably has a higher salt rating than it actually is, because like the times you lose to it are so memorable because you probably felt like you didn't have any agency. You felt like you were like handcuffed to a chair and you just like watched the CSA player win and you're like, no, please. I'm like, get rid of that Magus. I would have countered that. I would have swords the plowshare and CSA, help.
Just screaming at the screen like that interstellar scene.
You're like, no. You're just like casting the Magus, and you're like, no, I have an Ombo. I need my underground sea.
I need my bayou. I need my bayou.
Please. So the salt rating is 1 million.
Tony, how do you feel about this one?
I don't like these cards or these effects. And I usually am running decks that kind of don't care. Like I feel good about it when you feel good when it's not affecting you. You feel bad when it is affecting you.
Yeah.
The Zen of stacks.
It does say you can't play Magic, but in like a different way. If you're playing fair, you get to play. And if you're not,
what is fair to you? Like 24 forests in the sea.
One spell
dude.
per
That's what I'm
turn,
saying,
one
like,
land per turn.
In fucking like, if I see this in casual, I'm gonna be pissy as fuck. I'm literally like, what the fuck are you doing? But I also probably usually am running basics, so I'm like, you're dumb.
Yeah.
And like, why did you fucking play this?
Wow. Let's
You use the
rewind
D word?
to
You just
story
use the D
two.
word on the
we can't be
Let's
doing that.
rewind everybody to story 2.
Yeah. Tony, if you say the D
I'm
word,
not.
we'll get
I'm not
demonetized.
saying it to them.
Tim,
but in
leave
my
him
head,
alone. He said extra pickles.
in
on
my
his-
head, that's what's happening. But like, yeah, it's very salt inducing. But
Come on, you know it is, Tony.
I agree with one thing that Tim is saying, that like I think this will be higher on the list than maybe it quote should be.
Yeah, for sure.
Which will dictate like my response in the coming moments and probably make me lose, but it's fine. those are my general thoughts.
Sam, how about you?
Yes, Sammy.
I'm mixed on this one because I really love Blood Moon. Blood Moon's like one of my favorite cards. I love the art of it. I think it's just beautiful. Magus of the Moon. Magus or Magus? Real quick.
Magus.
I say
Magus.
Magus.
Like Maggie.
Yeah.
Magus.
I say
Yeah.
Magus.
Like
because-
haggis.
Like haggis. Ooh.
Yeah, like
Okay,
haggis
interesting.
magus.
Learning something new
Magus
every
of
day.
the, I always say it's probably it comes from mage, I bet.
That was my thinking, was because it came from mage. When you
Mage.
guys see the word magi, do you say magi?
Oh, the Magi.
It's a different word.
The
Yeah.
Magi.
No,
it's a
is
different
it's,
word.
It's single and plural.
Yeah, but
Interesting,
singles
yeah.
and plurals get weird all the time.
Common parlance is definitely Magus. I've never heard someone say, "Ooh, the Magus." No one's ever
Yeah,
said
me
that.
neither.
Agreed.
Now I've talked about it so much, I don't even know what I say. But I did say it
Magus.
earlier. So
He
yeah, I
said
say magus.
Magus. Like,
Magus.
what the fuck
Magus
is
to the
that,
moon.
dude?
That's dumb.
I've never heard that in my life.
You fucking dumb.
Fucking stupid.
You fucking idiot. Okay, so anyways, back to my saltiness with this. So I'm very torn on this because I love these effects. I love Blood Moon effects. I think they're really cool. I also think they're incredibly hard to time and very challenging to make perfectly asymmetrical. I think these are often the stacks pieces that you're dropping and somebody is squeaking through with a little bit more advantage than you wish that they had,
Skill testing stacks piece.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because even if you drop it early, if someone has like a couple of signets in their hand or a couple of talismans in their hand, they're going to drop them down and they're going to be able to play through and get back to their colors. I think it's skill intensive to play correctly, but I also think that there's just so much variance in the other decks that the chance of somebody just being able to push through and then it's like, well, you slowed down 2 opponents and I'm actually fine. And
Exactly.
you better hope that you are like totally unaffected by it when you drop it, because if you're giving a little bit of advantage to an opponent and hoping that you were the person who had that little bit of advantage, you're going to be pretty pissed off.
Yeah,
Totally,
and
and
the backlash from the table is going to be high.
Exactly.
Totally. And I just feel like for all the staleness people tout, like this is not a solved format. There is not real homogeneity of game plans with decks. There's so many different game plans that is kind of like the heart of the matter with stacks in general, is that it's like Tony said, you don't have perfect information. You don't know if the right stack piece is going to line up at the right moment. I heard someone once say that one of the least popular stacks colors is black, but it's probably actually the color that's like the best support color for stacks, because that way you can always tutor up the right stacks piece for the moment.
Yeah.
It was like a really interesting, I think it was LJ or someone said, it was a pretty good heuristic. I was like, oh, it kind of makes sense, because otherwise you're just like, well, I hope Magus is, I hope this is the good one,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, green is also great for stacks, because if you're running hate bears and creature stacks, you can also tutor those up. So that's like being able to enable that ability to tutor up the right stacks piece for the moment and land it on the board is huge.
Those are the asymmetrical ones, which I kind of love. And then this one isn't really one of those. I'm thinking of asymmetricals Dauntless Dismantler, Manglehorn, Dothy Voidwalker, Dranith, Opposition Agent. I think those are at the top of the heap, right? Where I would feel like Magus is lower.
And those, you don't need to design your deck in a specific way. Magus, you need to design your deck in a way to get some value out of it.
Anecdotally, I've never seen the Magus or Blood Moon player win in cEDH. It's usually a Magda player or something casting it and then someone else winning. I think
I've seen a Marath win with it a long time ago.
With Magus?
Yeah, a while ago.
I used to play Blood Pod, and then after that was when I picked up Marath stacks, and Blood Moon and Mages of the Moon were huge in those decks for me.
Again,
and
that's right. It's how he says it. He's been saying it that way since I've known him.
I would land a My Juice of the Moon, and
we try, but it doesn't work.
I would play my Juicy Moon, and I would do really well with it. But yeah, I used to win games with it because you could drop it and just fuck people up really, really early. And it is one of those things that it's very temperamental. You got to hit it at the right moment. And if you don't,
only a real master can do it.
Yeah. A master of the Juice Moon. What do you think about this one, Mike?
It's very similar to Blood Moon, right? But it is a creature, so it's slightly easier to remove. It's got that going for it. So probably a little less salty. I mean, I always love simple effects, non-basic lands or mountains, or simple text with big effects. This definitely checks that box. And I think what you guys have said about stacked pieces is totally accurate. It generates a lot of salt because often people are playing out from under them unevenly. And then often people play them at the wrong time, and often people remove them at the wrong time as well. And any one of those things happening can lead to a really frustrating situation where the conditions of the game that you're playing under are changed drastically without your input. I think it's hilarious in casual games because I think anything that has a game impact on players based on whether they spent a bunch of money on their lands is kind of funny. And it's not
so
good,
cruel.
But it's kind of funny. I like that the person that just throws 20 or 35 forests in their deck and shows up has a slight advantage in the face of some cards like this. I think that's funny. And I like it for that. And I won't apologize.
So Mike, where does this fall in the top 300 salty cards, Mike? Where is my Juice of the Moon?
Sam, why don't you tell me where your Juice of the Moon is? Get your guesses ready, folks. Where in the top 300 salty cards do you think this is?
I have my guess ready.
I do too. Right. I keep changing it.
Okay, I got my number.
All right, hit us, Tim. What's your number?
21.
107 is mine.
88 is my number.
Tony takes it.
What the fuck? Fucking go! What?
It is 112.
It's 112.
Oh, baby!
Tony was close.
Tony was close.
Wow.
Oh,
when you told me Winter Orb was high, I thought a Blood Moon effect would be really high.
Blood Moon itself, which we have done in previous years, is 39.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, all right. I wish I'd known that. Okay. That would have been cheating though if I knew that.
Yeah, it kind of
Yeah,
would have been.
it's
wouldn't
pretty. Yeah, and then you
wow.
would have guessed 40, and it would
You
have
wish
been a
that
whole
you
thing.
Yeah, I
cheated.
would've guessed like
Interesting.
40.
Interesting.
Yeah.
112. That's interesting.
112. Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
it? Hell yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for the salty card of the week.
Wait, what does Tony win?
Oh,
Nothing.
Pride.
It's saying pride.
What?
If
You
that.
should get to go first. in the
Saying
next
pride
game.
specifically.
Ooh.
It's actually worse to go first in this game.
It is.
No, in like a cEDH game in the league.
Oh.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
way. Forget about it.
No. I'm not willing to give Tony anything for this.
No advantages.
No, I gain pride. Every time this happens, my
Yeah.
saying pride upticks by 1.
And whenever he loses 2 points of pride. So it's a
No, I lose
constant
like 500.
deficit.
The deadly
Like
game.
500 pride points get lost every
He's
time
gonna be
I
the
lose.
mod of the tone zone if he gets it right next to you.
Well, thanks, Mike.
yeah.
That was a lovely salty card. And thanks to you, Tim, for joining us in the Salt Mine this week. We really appreciate it, man.
Dan.
Time of my life.
I'm glad, dude.
My wedding day, being on the Howling Salt Mine podcast.
Up there. Up there.
Yeah, it's up there. It's up there. Tim, if people are looking for more of that Goldsabertooth content, where can they find you?
What do I have? Yeah, I've got an awesome Patreon. I'm on Discord. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, Etsy shop. But a really cool thing coming up. I'm sure you guys will talk about it at some point. But
We will.
I've got a really cool Kickstarter coming up. I get like messages every day, like tons of messages of people asking about like playmats I've done in the past and if they can get them, but I don't have them. I'm like an artist, but I'm also like, I'm a merchant too. You know, I'm a one-man show.
Yeah.
Like I can't keep like thousands of dollars of like product on hand. I just can't do that.
Yeah.
So I feel bad because the life of the art is like, you know, I draw it myself and then I have them printed and I put it out. And then by the time they get mailed off and go to people at LGSs and people start seeing their friends of them, then those people come talk to me and then like they're gone. You know, so if someone sees Mike playing with the CC mat and they like hit me up, I'll be like,
get
those
outta
are
here.
long gone. They're gone. And it's feel bad. So I actually have a lot of like kind of like feel bad conversations a lot about my products where I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't have it anymore. But this Kickstarter is a really cool opportunity because it now allows me to, I'm going to be doing like a best of and like retooled like different color variations and of some of my classic mats, like my Kinnin, my
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
CC
Hell yeah.
mat, Rogsai, Krakashima, Blue Farm, ones that like people really want that I haven't had on hand in some of them years. And then some exclusive ones because I wanted like to reward some people who wanted to see some new stuff. So I did Yuriko, Najila, and Tim Nathrasios, which I
What about
did.
Rob Dixless? It's not on there?
I did Rob Nixless.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
Well, you just
Yeah,
found
come
this
on,
out.
dude.
Yeah, no.
What?
I feel
We
like I
sent
didn't
you
know this.
links, man.
We sent you links to it,
You
Tony.
sent me a
We
link?
sent you links.
Why didn't you
Oh,
buy
yeah, I
it?
would have mailed you one.
Absolutely.
It's got like Tony Soprano is Ob Nixless.
Is it really?
I've got like Furio. I've got like an anthropomorphic Gabagool on it.
Yeah.
That's so
Keswick
good.
Flame Breather is like Wario. It's really good.
I
remember we
can't
sent it to
believe-
Tony and he was like, I think this isn't very good. I won't buy it. It was
It is
weird.
very
It was a
good.
weird
Oh, it's
moment.
interesting.
He was like, oh,
It was
I
weird
hope
he
we-
did that.
I don't even, definitely don't tell me who did this because I don't ever want to see that
Literally so
person
dumb.
ever.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
What can you say?
So,
You know?
he said, whoever made this art is a stupid dummy.
Yeah, and I hate them.
He said,
I hate
what a
them.
fucking idiot move.
I'm calling the judge.
Definitely check out Tim's Kickstarter when it pops up. We're going to be talking about it on the show when it does, so you will know. And like we said, Tim did a beautiful Offspring token as a fun gift for me that we're going to be taking that gift and passing it along to the patrons in our Salt Packet tier and up. So if you are curious about that, jump into the Patreon, get up to the next level for this month because this is the only month it's going to be available. I'm very much like Tim. He and I talk about this all the time. We're not a merchant. We don't keep a fuck ton of stock on hand.
No.
These tokens, they happen, they go out, and then they're gone. So,
But you know, it was a real honor to do this for Sam. And, you know, it's kind of like we were joking with Mike that it's kind of like organizing like an art meal train for somebody. And I wanted to do my bit to help because Sam is a great friend and a great artist. And you might not know this, but on the listeners, but Sam and I talk shop about art a lot. We'll just call each other up when we're drawing. And like, I get to see all the stuff that you patrons get that he's working on. And he's just a amazing artist himself, an illustrator. And I love seeing the stuff he's cooking up, and it's fun to have another artist to talk shop with. So
yeah, man, it's super,
I mean, he's
fun.
all right. He's not that good.
No, he's
Tim,
good.
We don't let his head get too big. Be careful,
dude. He's got a big. It's the hair. It's actually the hair.
Yeah.
But the I tried to make the offspring token. I was trying to draw it like a Sam drawing, so I was like trying to like do Sam line work.
It's in there, man. I love it.
I try to make it look good.
I think that's one of my favorite parts about it. Is it looks like a token that I would do.
Yeah, I try to make it look like that. Yeah.
Well, thanks again for coming on the show today, Tim. It was super fun. And thank you. We got to shout them out to our Salt Packet Plus tier patrons. Just because Tony requested it. Oh, this is going to be horrible. And this week we have
the long one.
No, I'm doing it, Tony. And this week we have Vok, the Quiet One, Swankub, Pez, Doug's Dad, Bark. Or maybe I should say Bark, Doug's Dad.
Yeah.
Gilgamesh, D. Beeson, Clearbrook, Elgo Fogel, Captain Cross, Bremstone, Bobo Fett, Sire Speedy, Rothbox, and Thotimus Prime. Thank you for being such excellent supporters. And thank you to all the prospectors out there who tune into the Howling Salt Mine every single motherfucking week and hang out with us here in the mine. If you are looking for more Howling Salt Mine content, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Howling Salt Mine. I already mentioned it. This will be the one thing I plug for the Patreon this week. The Salt Packet tier, that's where you get the monthly tokens. 2 tokens from me every single month. This month, you're going to be getting 2 copies of that Offspring token from Tim. Beautifully designed. If you also want to jump to the Patreon for the bonus content, the Discord, all of those fun things. Another way that you can help support the show is to check out our merchandise, whether you're getting custom Dragon Shield sleeves on our website, shirts on our Bonfire site, or playmats over at the Jank Mats website that we have. All of those links are in the show notes, so check those out. Another way you can help out the show, send us your salty stories. Submit them to us on our website, thehowlingsaltmine.com or howlingsaltmine.com. We have a form on there you can fill out, or just email them to us to our Gmail, which is thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com. Another way you can support the show is to give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app of choice, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, or check us out on YouTube because we're over there now. You might notice that some episodes are missing from YouTube. That's because YouTube isn't very friendly with song parodies. So if you're looking for a handful of random episodes, they just aren't there. Find those on the other places where you can find the show.
Are you serious? The parodies?
Oh, yeah, dude. Some of them just get fucking... I uploaded the whole show and they were like, no one will ever hear these episodes. And I was like, okay.
What? You were like the Weird Al Yankovic of cEDH. Like,
dude, apparently YouTube is just really shitty with song parodies. Like
parodies?
They changed the rules about it like a few years ago. Anywho, finally, we got to shout him out. Our buddy Devin Burnett for giving us our beautiful podcast art that we rock every single week. If you're ever in Asheville, North Carolina, shout out to all the people down there. Hopefully the city is coming back together and you're getting that relief that you need. Hopefully everybody is safe. But someday Devin Burnett will be back to tattooing. Check him out. Get a tattoo from him because he's a really cool guy.
10,000 subscribers are buzzed.
Bow, 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 bow.
Indeed. Thanks again, Tim. We really appreciate it, man.
Love you
Yeah,
guys.
dude.
Hell yeah.
Love having you on.
Smooches.
Bye.
And thanks again, everybody. And stay salty. And don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
And I think y'all are probably on the same page, but my rule for jokes is that like if you make yourself the target of ridicule or like punch up. But even then, I don't even like that. I mean, I'm more of like self-deprecating humor is fine. I just don't like any jokes where someone else is the target.
Well,
like just because it's not for me personally. It's just like,
I mean,
Except for the people
when
that
the targets
suck.
are other people.
well,
right?
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The target's like a fucking idiot, though. You know,
we
Those
can
are the
make
jokes
fun
I
of
want to
them.
be heard to make now.
Or when it's me, I feel like I get
if it's
targeted
Tony, I was
a
going
lot.
to say, am I punching up if I'm making a joke at Tony? I don't know if I am.
You're taller than him, so what sounds better? Sorry,
Holding it up sounds
Holding it
best.
up
Holding it up
sounds
sounds better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will hold it.
Lovely.
Yeah, that's
Fucking better,
what
bitch.
I'll hold it for you.
Thank you.
So,
Should we do one more?
Man. Wait, but what's our salt
Wait,
rating
what's
on
the
this
salt
one?
Oh, we
rating?
didn't do salt
Yeah,
rating.
salty
what?
potato
Pardon
chip.
me.
Oh, there we go. We've got it. Salted
No,
potato
no,
chip.
no, no.
Don't even
Salty
need any
potato
more.
chip.
Tony,
Next
you got to say
story.
the line. You got to say the line, Tony.
I do think there's always space to kind of cheese and like grab a culling ritual to deal with the blood moon kind of thing.
Well, that
Sweep up
wouldn't
the
hit.
whole board.
That wouldn't hit a blood moon, Mike.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just cut it out.
I'll cut that out. I'll cut that out.
Make Mike look smart.
And it's green.
Just like edit in
What deck
Mike's
are they
saying.
on? Just cut it all the way out.
What deck were they on?
They
I
had,
don't
they,
know. Did
went
they
for
even say what
Thoracle
deck?
win, right? Didn't they say they went
Let's
for
not worry.
Thoracle
Let's
win?
not die. Let's not think
But
too
either
much
way,
about
No,
it.
what do we
let's make
think?
sure we know Mike is wrong.
Anyway, it is Magus. I was wrong.
Is it really?
No.
Tony takes it.
What the
Let's fucking go. What?
Went to the wrong tab.
What number is it, Mike? Come on.
Yeah, I know.
Mike.
It's like
Holding
tab.
us
I went to
in
the wrong
serious
tab. I'm
suspense.
sorry.
Fuck, Mike.
Everybody listening at home will have just instantly gotten it, but we sit here in suspense.
Tony fan art channel. These like erotic
Oh,
drawings
dude.
of Tony.
There's so many already in my personal collection.
One of our friends joined. We have a music channel called the Tone Zone, and he was genuinely upset that it wasn't just the Tony like channel.
The Tone Zone. Hey,
Tone Zone.
Hey, it's a
is this where
channel
we
all
talk
for
about Tony?